Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I've been wanting to do this video for a while and I just kind of gathered my thoughts together to really give my honest opinion, and we are going to be covering today life in the UK versus the Netherlands. If you're new here, Murphy, my husband, and I moved to the UK in 2021 for a little over a year and a half, and then we moved to the Netherlands, and now we are back in the UK in Bristol. We're in a different part now. So before in Bristol, we lived in the city center, and then when we moved to the Netherlands, we were in a city called Den Bosch, and that city is quite small, maybe like 40,000, and we lived in the suburbs there. And now we are living in the suburbs in Bristol, and I wanted to just kind of compare my thoughts now being back in Bristol and being able to kind of compare, and also basing off of like what we missed living in Bristol when we moved to the Netherlands, and then now having being back, what we're kind of missing about the Netherlands. So I did get Murphy's thoughts on these as well, and he agrees and didn't have any more to add to what my initial thoughts were as well. So I'm going to be covering those for both of us. So let me start with the Netherlands, about the things that we're missing or we just feel like we don't get that extra level of in Bristol that we did when we were living in the Netherlands. So I will first say public transportation. I feel like merely the cost of it in the Netherlands was very affordable. To give you an idea, in the Netherlands, if you wanted to go to Amsterdam from Den Bosch, it was like an hour, 30 minutes, maybe an hour 40. That's about the same distance from Bristol to London. In the Netherlands, you could get to Amsterdam for 25 euros, which in pounds is probably like closer to 20, maybe a little less. That's one way. Here, if I wanted to go to London, even with a rail card, which saves you a little bit of money, it's going to cost one way at least 40 to 50 pounds on like a not a super busy time, so an off-peak time. So that is a considerable difference, and it's kind of why we don't really go to London as much as I think we would want to. And even the bus system in the Netherlands, they do tap on, tap off, and it adjusts the price based on where you're going. Whereas here, it's kind of a one said and done price. So you do tap on, tap off here, but it's always 210 or 240 or whatever it is. And there's just like little things like that definitely add up. So public transportation definitely cost-wise is a big difference. Another one for the Netherlands then is also safety. I feel like, again, we lived in a smaller town, but there's just not as much crime happening outside of there's certainly crime, but you don't hear about it as much. I think there's less of a homeless community in the Netherlands in general as well, and I think a lot of crime maybe stems from that as well. But in Bristol, it is quite heavy. I think UK in general is known to have a lot of stabbings, and while they are isolated incidents most of the time, it is kind of uneasy, where you just have to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings than I felt like we did in the Netherlands. So, and really we didn't see police ever, except if there was an event going on in the Netherlands. So you definitely see police around and kind of constantly hearing them going around in general. So the one thing I will say is, in where we are, a lot more people are wary of dogs, especially Monty, because he can look a little bit scary. So I will say he's kind of my protector when I have to go out alone, which is very nice. So another thing that we definitely miss in the Netherlands is just the space. You get a lot more space for your money there, and also going with that, just the outdoor space. Like, there's so much green space around. There's parks here and there here, and when there is a park, they're generally quite nice, but again, it's just not as much of it. Like, we had so many fields surrounding us, it was so nice to just walk around with Monty off leash, and we have to go to a park for that, but even then you kind of have to be on guard, whereas it was just a little bit more sparse in terms of like the people around, and there's just a little bit more freedom over there. So another thing, which I've definitely mentioned multiple times talking about living in the Netherlands, but obviously the biking culture, it's so big there that it's just very safe to bike there. There's way more space. Obviously, you have a dedicated bike lane. The pedestrians, drivers are all thinking about you as a cyclist, whereas here we do have bike lanes and some more dedicated than others in different areas, but you do have to like ride on the road occasionally, and not everybody is aware. I will say Murphy did get an accident like a week or two ago. Fortunately, it could have been way worse, but it was just someone getting out of the car on the wrong side and not paying any attention to cyclists coming by, and they opened the door and it opened right into him, and his backpack caught him and he just got a couple scrapes and stuff. But I just feel like that's much less likely to happen in the Netherlands, so you're definitely a little more on edge, I feel like, cycling here. The last thing I will say is that in general, I feel like the Netherlands was much more clean. Again, it could have been because we just lived in a smaller city, so you didn't see it as much, but here I feel like almost like how New York has like trash everywhere, like I feel like that's just like a known thing about New York. It's kind of the same here. I feel like when the garbage people come, like it just kind of goes everywhere, the wind takes it up, and there are like street cleaners, but they don't always do the best job, and people just throw food like it's on the street, and I have to avoid Monty getting the food, so it's a whole thing. But it's definitely much more clean in the Netherlands, I think. So that is all for the Netherlands. So now let's move on to the UK and what we've really been loving, and some things didn't even realize we missed until we came back. So this first one, we didn't, I feel like, immerse ourselves as much as we could have the first time around. I feel like it was just kind of an adjustment period, but now that we've lived abroad for a while, we are adjusted, and so we together have both kind of gotten into a bit more of like hobbyist groups, and I feel like there's much more of that here, or it's easier to enter into them. You know, you see different flyers for all different types of things at all the small little local coffee shops, or you know, online, word of mouth, all of that. So like Murphy's in the run club, that's more of a friend group, but they do the run events every Saturday at 9 all over the UK. There's a cycling group, they call it Hills and Pills like the beer, and they do that on Wednesdays, and that's like a hobbyist group through one of the breweries. Different breweries have different run clubs. There's craft groups. Like, it's just a lot easier to put yourself out there and do new things and meet new people. This could be an obvious one, but obviously they speak English here, so it's a little bit easier for us to, again, make friends, meet new people, and just adjust a little bit better. And I will also say, like, even just going out to eat and being able to like know what other people are saying, like it's kind of fun to hear a conversation and kind of guess like what the dynamic is and stuff like that. So it's obviously much nicer and easier to be in a space where you know and understand the language. Another one is going to be the pub life, and this kind of goes along with hobbyist groups, but there's so many small pubs around, and they all do different local events, like different food carts that come, they throw different events on the weekends with like a DJ. They do like family friendly events, trivia. The one over by us, they do like a sea shanty night on like every third Thursday or something. They do like folk music night, a life drawing class. It's very much a pub culture, whether it be just to go drink or to go do something, and a lot of them have really great food, I will say, as well. So this one might be hard to believe, but the weather. Now, the UK is obviously known for it being rainy, and especially people living here complain a lot about the weather because it is very like up and down, but it's, for me, better than the Netherlands. I've spoken about this before. It rained so much in the Netherlands, like every single day, it felt like, and you would never expect it. Like sometimes it would certainly be on the app or like on the radar, but a lot of times it would say it was going to be a clear day and it just wasn't. So that was super annoying and it didn't really make you want to go do anything. Whereas now I feel like it really hasn't rained that much, and if it does, it's like, you know, it's coming and it will maybe rain one full day, but otherwise it just rains like a little bit and then it's just like overcast. But for me, I kind of like that. I don't hate rain like when it's a proper rain day, and it stays fairly cool here. The only thing is when it gets hot, it gets so hot because they are not equipped for air conditioning here, and it only happens, you know, a couple days out of the year where it gets so hot, but when it's hot, it's so hot. But otherwise, I feel like this is my type of weather. You know, it doesn't get so cold and it doesn't get so hot majority of the time. It usually stays between, in the summer, like 60 to like 75, and in the winter it's like 30 to like 50. That's like my ideal weather. So that's all I have to say about that. And finally, I will say the food scene. This is another situation where, again, we're in a bigger city. I know from visiting Amsterdam and Utrecht and Eindhoven that the food scenes are a little bit better there, but Bristol, we are so fortunate to have so many great food spots covering so many different cultures. Some of the best, to be honest, are the food markets that are set up on different days of the week, and they just have a bunch of different vendors that only do street food most of the time, and they're all so good. You can really get anything that you would want. But the restaurant scene in general is also just quality, and I feel like, again, the UK gets a bad rap for its food, and while yes, like their own food, like the pies, the fish and chips, get like the bad rap for being bland, I think it's quite good. But additionally, it's such a cultural melting pot in the UK that, you know, you have so many different ethnicities coming and bringing their food here, but also, you know, doing their own thing and making a fusion of different cuisines. And we here in Bristol just have been so fortunate to get to have that as a part of the city, and we love it. As you know, we are foodies, and we were so happy to be back with such a plethora of really good options to eat at, whereas where we were before, I feel like it was just a lot of your classic Dutch food, and we did have a lot of our like key places that we really loved, but there just wasn't as much option as we have here. So all in all, we loved living in both places, but we definitely are feeling just a little bit happier here, and we knew some people here moving back, and I think that just really kind of helped the quality of life, and we love it. Obviously, some of those other things about the Netherlands are big points that I wish we could just bring over here, but at the same time, we chose to come back to Bristol for a reason, and we are very happy about it. So, but I hope you enjoyed this video comparing our life in the UK versus the Netherlands. I'm happy to do more videos about anything specific about living abroad, or living in the UK, the Netherlands, anything you want to know, I'm happy to expand on. But for now, that will conclude this video, and I'll see you in another one very soon.